So I found another universal truth. I know they're hard to come by. Most of them are bollocks. Continually, you get told that isn't everyone just a human being after all. Imagine. Shut up. Yeah, waste of time. But I have found one universal truth, which is piss takers. Everyone's got a piss taker. At least when it comes to quote-unquote asylum seekers.
Okay.
For sure. And I can prove it. Because this is happening on both sides of the pond. And, well, in real time. I thought we'd just have some fun. We'll start off just by mentioning immigration is the reason you can't get a house podcast, which I did. I'm going to skip over that, basically, because the last segment was same thing in regards. But let's go to it. So the Daily Mail ran this article. It's called Afghan Refugees Rescued and Brought to the United States Were Racist and Sexist Towards Those Tasked with Helping Them and Turned their noses up at accommodation they were offered, State Department reports.
So the whole Noble Savage thing is not a...
No, it turns out exactly the same thing we've been experiencing in little old Airstrip 1, the Yanks.
Right.
It seems that science works the same across the pond as it does here. I don't know, do you know about that? When the Americans and the British met after the British gave up on the bomb.
Right.
It was a really funny story. I always assumed that the British got the nuclear bomb from the Americans. I just assumed they were nice to us. No, of course not.
Oh, okay.
Instead, they were bastards about it. So we had to develop our nuclear bombs ourselves. We did, made our own bombs, joined the club, and then we were trying to build hydrogen bombs, which is the next level, basically. Yes. And you have to reach 1 megaton. Bang.
Yes.
And we hit like 0.9 of a megaton. So, okay. Didn't hit the target.
Wow.
That was the minimum target. Yeah. So we went to the Americans, we're like, right, okay, we'll agree to a nuclear cooperation treaty where we give each other technology and blah, blah, blah in exchange for all this money.
For that little extra 0.1.
Yeah, and the Americans and the British both sat at their table because they sent the scientists to talk to each other because diplomats don't know what any of this is. Yes. And the scientists just kind of looked at each other and went, so what do I tell them? Nobody's told me what I can and can't say. So then they both sort of like drank tea and spoke about the plane. And they went, all right, one moment, chaps. British went in the room, went, okay, they've got more than us, so bugger it, just give them everything. For free. Yeah. So they sat back at the table, were just like, yeah, so here's everything. Gave them literally all of our research. Yeah. And the Americans went, yeah, it seems physics is the same across the pond as here. And then gave us everything.
Oh, that was nice of them.
So, wow, that paid off.
Right.
It was literally just because they were talking to scientists, and they didn't know what to do either. There's just autism around the world. At least of nuclear physicists. Anyway, whole other story. But here's another situation. We found out we're both on the same snow.
Right.
So the claims emerged in the State Department report that looked at the resettlement of around 73,000 Afghan evacuees brought into the United States last year in 2021. The agencies also identified inappropriate behavior from some, which they attributed to lack of cultural awareness.
Right.
It seems, and I'm personally deeply shocked to find out, Afghanistan, bit different than the West.
They don't have the girl boss role model out there, then?
No, weirdly. Oh. Also, I remember getting told a story from... I don't know if I could have half the sense of this or not. So there was a guy who told me about... He was serving in Afghanistan, and one of the cohort in his unit, he was American, was coming down, and he was doing like training or something, was transgender. So they're there with their squad, and they're trying to help the local army guys train them up, and they're like, right, so this person...
So the Afghan was transgender?
No, the American supervisor is coming to come and check up
in the army?
Yeah. So they speak to the Afghan army.
What, in the army?
So the Americans are training the Afghan army, the men, and they're like, right, we've got our supervisor coming, bit of a different person, blah, 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 like trying to prepare them for it, and the Afghan army guys are like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, but in the army?
It's just an army guy. A transgender individual turns up, male to female, apparently not a particularly stunning transition. He told me the story that the Afghan men who were in the Afghan army, who were fighting, for freedom in the West, looked at this and went, what is that? Yeah. I just stared for like 3 hours while the person was there. And then eventually they left, and the Afghan army were just like, are you serious? I was like, okay. Yeah, cultural awareness.
To be fair, I struggle to believe that we're serious about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, most of the West struggles to believe the crap the government tries to teach us.
Yes.
If you're an Afghan, you've got a lot of learning to do.
I don't understand. Yeah, but the thing I can't get over is in the army. Why don't they have better bullying?
I don't know. I think they tried, and then they've decided the opposite is true, which is that anyone who raises the point that maybe this is a bit weird, you're the bully and need to go, and simple as. Anyway, so they're saying here they've got the inappropriate behaviour from some Afghans. Don't know what that is. You can speculate in your own time. For example, some RA staff reported experiencing...
Probably going to be a lot of pedestry, isn't it?
There's that whole problem as well, which
Yeah.
I warned about. No one listened. They've also experienced racism and sexism from Afghan clients, unaccustomed to the norms of U.S. society. The report explained. This is really funny. So this is the Afghans. Don't laugh. They refused to work with case managers if they were women or from minority groups, says the report. Now, I'm a bit laughing because I'm really imagining the Afghans are actually a bit more aware than the State Department wants to admit, and they're just sat there like, I don't want a diversity hire on my case. Sorry. But I'm from the State Department. I don't care. I know how you got this job, my lady. So maybe that's going place. Maybe it's traditional Islamic things, but we'll find out. Quote, a few local officers had issues of verbal abuse from Afghans, mostly those who were upset or frustrated at the process, one agency reported, which I find really funny. They have to add that on. It's like, well, they were calling me bleep, but they're just frustrated. It's like, oh, come on. Quote, many parolees had very high expectations and did not understand the role of local affiliates and would become frustrated with services and housing, the report detailed. Some of them also appeared to have unrealistic expectations over how the resettlement process might work. For example, some groups were told they would receive welcome money when they arrived on US soil.
Yeah, it's not like they're coming to England.
No, what do you think? Like,
Yes.
Here's 10 grand. Terribly sorry for the water. Others also had unrealistic expectations over housing and would reject offers of homes that they deemed insufficient or inferior quality than what they wanted.
Probably worked out for them then, didn't it?
Yeah, it does in the end. I just can't get over it always stuns me that you go to foreign country and go, I don't want this house, this isn't good enough. I mean, for all the problems we spoke of, Western youth dealing with houses, these people get free house and go, not for me. Don't you know who I am?
Yes.
I was part of the Herat female football team. It's like, yeah, it's a real shame that's gone. Anyway, some who had good jobs working in professional positions in Afghanistan or had advanced degrees from the country.
Well, they always say they do, don't they? I mean, every time I get an Uber, they're always telling me that they got 7 degrees or something from.
This does happen.
Yes.
People can get actual. Well, people have actually worked hard to get a degree sometimes in countries like that.
Yes.
Now, call me old-fashioned, but I suspect the University of Kabul wasn't the most academically rigorous place on earth.
Yeah, having said that, it could be more vigorous than, say, Wilfrid Laurier.
Yeah, but I mean, at my university, for example,
Yes.
that's considered a British university of high standing, or at least internationally it's seen that way. Cheating all the time, everywhere. I actually had a conversation with one professor about one exam I took, where I was sat there doing my work, and then he came over to do it for me in the middle of the exam because everyone else had left and he wanted me to go home. I said to him, no, I'm not submitting this. That's cheating. And then he went all bright-faced and got, oh, crap, I might lose my job over this. So I'm kind of strung on doing, so having a conversation with me where I was like, so how often does cheating take place? And he's like, oh, every exam ever. I said, and you know this? All the buts are, yeah, everyone's, and I was like, oh.
And that
so
was before we had ChatGPT.
That's Western education.
Yes.
Where that's the level of academic rigor. And then I think to Kabul, don't mean to throw shade, but I feel like the old government might not have been the most strict in making sure that everyone had their marks. So, anyway, whole other conversation. So, they say here they often believe they would be given positions in their chosen field in the United States. Because, don't you know, I was a doctor. I was like, I'm not
To be fair, maybe they've just been watching Western news, where, every time a boat turns up, somebody from BBC, they were saying, oh, look, some more architects and surgeons.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe so. So they say here, the agencies have recommended various measures, including standardized minimum requirements for cultural orientation that emphasize self-sufficiency, manage expectations, and convey United States societal expectations for behavior regarding gender, race, and sexual issues.
They really ought to add not groping people to that list.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes into it. Presumably down the line.
Maybe that's in the former category.
Yeah. God, I'll tell you a story afterward. I can't tell someone like that. There's a ridiculous one. I gotta tell you about that. But
can you do it after we're off YouTube and when the members only section?
No, I gotta do it.
Oh, right, okay.
So anyway, but I found those files of the gender sensitivity training in the trash over there. It's just like, yeah, it's never getting read. But they say in here the latest reports is more positive than the previous reports, though. Even though it turns out that all those Afghans we took might have some different opinions. than we were expecting. The previous reports were worse than this one, though, because in those reports, we found loads of, quote, bad actors or national security threats who came into the United States under the scheme.
Yeah.
Who would have thought if you...
Didn't I hear on the podcast just a couple of days ago about something like the Afghan women's soccer team or something? We flew them all over.
Yeah, this is to Britain.
Yeah, and then we sort of checked later and we found out that actually none of them were on the Afghan women's soccer team.
So I think it was the Herat women's football team, and they went and found the manager in Afghanistan, and were like, so here's the list of players. Recognize any of them? No. Recognize any of the names of their families? No.
Yes.
Who have we taken? So it was a bit awkward. But the full report is actually available. It took me a little tracking down, but I'm sure you can go and read in your own time if you have some interest.
Sounds fun.
They actually mentioned some things in here that don't get mentioned in the Daily Mail, which was weird. Remember that whole welcome money?
Actually, this could be quite funny now that I've read the title.
Yeah, but they are the challenges. just some challenges. The welcome money thing from earlier, they were upset about. Turns out you do get welcome money.
Oh, okay.
It just depends, the amount varies depending on the cost of living where you're based.
Right.
So there were Afghans complaining they weren't getting as much as their friends who had been sent to New York City. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's great.
Do we know how much they got?
It doesn't give us a dollar figure. It just says it varies.
Right.
They also say in here, normally what happens whenever they bring someone like this to the United States, there's 3 months of cultural orientation before an applicant even steps foot on American soil. That's the written procedure. 3 months.
It's going to be 3 months of rape. No.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's so hello class. This is Jason.
His pronouns are
he, him, blah blah blah. I don't think it's going to be what we would actually want these things to be, which is
right. Okay.
Crime, bad. Don't do crime.
Yes.
You will actually get punished for crime here, hopefully. If the policing actually do their job.
Well,
instead, it's not that.
To be fair, I think you do get punished for crime even in Afghanistan. It's just their definition of crime.
Well, I think you get more punished for crime in Afghanistan.
Yes.
My experience was that less crime there than here.
Yes.
So,
it's just that certain things such as rape is just a bit of banter out there.
Depends on the circumstances. I mean, if she's your wife, what do you mean she can't say no?
Yes.
Legally.
Or a white woman.
Well, they're white women. What are they doing there?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's no, I won't read it. So, point being, took some Afghans. Americans figured out. Hang on a minute, they're not the most thankful because this housing's not good enough. Also, what's that? Also, where's my money? Yeah. And turns out the UK similar circumstances. And I thought I'd read this story of a local man, highly local, the most local of local men, is in the news today. Dan. This is Ryan. Not his real name, the BBC, right?
I'm sure it's Dave Smith or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Should we use Dave from now?
Yeah, let's go with Dave.
I'm gonna use Ryan instead, because Ryan is just silly. But you can see the headline there. Asylum seekers 5-nation trek to sanctuary. He did a bit more than 5 nations, so I don't know why they're lying. But this guy is my new favourite human being, because the levels to which his story twists and turns almost make me kind of proud of him.
Sort of the hero's journey, is it?
Yeah, in taking the piss. He is my chief piss taker. I was going to get clever. Anyway, Ryan over here. He's one of the 45,000 people who crossed the English Channel to the UK last year seeking asylum. It was the last leg in his journey to safety, which has taken him through 5 countries, including Ukraine. Huh. So, presumably he's from Kazakhstan or something, right?
Sounds about right. Just thinking through the geography, yeah.
Kazakhstan, go to Russia, go to Moscow, then go to Ukraine, and then okay, that can make sense. It's got to be from that sort of route, or it would be really weird that you ended up there. Born in Saudi Arabia, okay, great. To a Somali family. All right, we're going south.
Maybe he's just not very good at directions.
How? So he's 18. He's living in Saudi.
Right.
It's no crime as well for similar reasons to Afghanistan.
Okay.
Which is they actually are serious about the law.
Yes.
Which I commend.
The ones that they like. Yeah.
Actual no problems with them implementing their laws in that regard. To say, you stole a phone. Oh, that's a real shame. I bet you
Off
liked
with your hands.
I bet you liked wanking. Not anymore. Anyway, so he's 18 years old in Saudi Arabia. He's he's bored, I presume.
Right.
Because they say he decides to escape. He's Saudi, Somali Muslim. He's not,
Yes.
a Jew.
Yes.
So he needs to escape. The reason he says he needs to escape is because of the kafala system, the migrant sponsorship system, which is if you're a migrant, you're not a Saudi, then you actually have to have a visa.
Right.
Which is brutal and oppressive, I know. So if he wants a job, he has to get a sponsor, which is basically a death sentence. What do you do? Talk to someone? What are you, mad? No. So instead, he decides the easier thing to do is to go back to Somalia.
Oh, what? So he's originally from Somalia.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But he's only Somali through ethnic group. He's raised in Saudi.
Oh, right. Okay, I got you.
So he's living in Saudi all his life.
Yes.
Enjoying McDonald's and the Saudi.
So he gets the
KFC.
culture then,
and then goes, you know what? This is awful. I'm leaving. To Somalia I go. Yahar. So he jots on his way, presumably on a raft, to Somalia. Quote, he arrived in Somalia hoping it would be his long-term home, but he soon realised he couldn't stay there. Oh, really? Do you want to guess what might have been a bit troubling for a young man in Somalia?
Do tell.
Quote, I grew up in a peaceful country. Saudi. I never saw a gun in my life. On the third day in Somalia, my true love gave to me a gang who put a gun in my head because my hair was too long. That's actually what happened. They took my phone, smashed it on the ground, and gave me a tool to shave my head, he said. This is day number 3 of heaven on earth, because he could not live in Saudi. It was
different cultural norms. You just got to go with it.
Saudi, hell on earth, couldn't deal with it. Go to Somalia, day 3. Your hair's too long, you gay word.
Yes.
So,
and the only thing that was different is there was more of
guns.
The Somalis.
Yeah. Quote, the guns were like water. They were everywhere. I felt scared. I didn't leave my hotel room for days.
You got a hotel room?
How you got a what?
Okay.
For people who don't know, there's 2 parts to Somalia. There's the northern part that used to be under the control of the British, and for some reason, who knows, still has law and order and is a functioning society. And then there's the southern part, which was owned by the Italians, and then for some reason, the difference between these 2 places is literally just that. But for some reason, the southern part is Lord of the Flies.
Right.
God bless Italy. And I think he's down there. You can go to hotels. They're pretty well guarded, and you've got to pay a lot of money for it.
Yes, I can imagine.
Which is, if you've got family in Saudi, ain't too big a problem. But I imagine the conversation he had with his family, because it's just him that goes. The rest of the family are like, "No, we're staying here. You want some money?"
What a ridiculous idea you've come up with here.
Yeah, so 18-year-old retard F's around and finds out is what I'm hearing so far. So he goes there. He doesn't have the best times.
I'm still confused as to how the next step is Ukraine.
Yeah, I didn't get that for a while. So he's sitting around in his hotel in Mogadishu and thinks,
without a phone.
Hang on a minute.
And short
this
hair.
Diversity isn't all I was told it was. After having a few free online visa applications for Russia approved...
Okay.
What? There's no such thing as a free visa to Russia, but okay. Ryan over here, he then books a flight to Moscow, which again is not the cheapest. Average Somali man can't really afford a flight to Moscow. I would have thought you'd get a flight back to Riyadh and just continue your life, with the one.
Well, now you've figured out that your entire mental model is complete rubbish.
Yeah, no, he goes to Moscow because
okay.
I don't know why he picked Moscow. Through a map, I presume. Flies there, not knowing where he was going to sleep. Great. This guy sounds like a real high IQ planner. There, he soon felt welcome and made friends. Oh, that's a good sign. Maybe he'll settle down and get a wife.
Oh, good.
But then his visa expired after 2.5 months, with no option to renew, and it was time to move again. It was like, hang on, you knew that was coming.
Yes.
When you apply for a visa, they give you the term.
When it's written on the piece of paper, yes.
Yeah, and you just did nothing, and then it ran out. What do I do? Oh, I guess I'll break into Ukraine. So that's actually what he decides to do. I don't know what he was thinking he was going to do. Ryan says his group's passports had been taken by the police, so there's no legal way for him to leave the country.
This is after he's got into Ukraine.
This is after he's got to Moscow.
Oh, I see.
Which, not really sure how that worked. I'm pretty sure they were taken because he applied for asylum. Presumably that's why he got the visa. And in which case, the proper thing to do, mate, is to wait for the asylum application, but...
You would think.
I don't know. Or just go back to Riyadh, you freaking lunatic. No, instead, he decides, she's got nothing to do. Let's just go see Donbass. So he decided to meet a man.
So he's still in Russia then?
Working with the government. who smuggled people into Ukraine.
Okay.
Because what else? He couldn't go to Azerbaijan or Georgia or Kazakhstan or Estonia or Finland. No, Ukraine is the one he goes with.
So what year did he do this?
He's doing this, I think, in the period the Donbass war is going on.
Right, okay.
So you've got to go through some front lines, which is always the smart thing to do. His friends went ahead without him while he waited for his uncle in Saudi Arabia to transfer him 1,400 British pounds for the smuggling fee.
I'm just thinking, if he didn't like guns being put in his face, what's he going to make of artillery fire?
Yeah, but also your uncle's given you $1,500 from Saudi.
Yeah.
Why not just buy a plane ticket and go back to Saudi?
Yes.
Why did you do any of this? You actual moron.
I'm quite intrigued by this story now, though.
I kind of love him in a weird way. That it's just like, you don't plan anything ever. You go on like these really weird solutions to your problems, which is, what if I go to other random place across the world that'll totally be better than, I don't know, heaven on earth in the kingdom over there. But whatever. I just, why not go back? But whatever. It was a journey he wasn't sure he'd survive. Oh, that's why you go on it, don't you? He describes being deceived by the people smugglers from Russia to Ukraine, physically abused by the people smugglers, and left naked without any possessions. You
would think people smugglers would be, lovely chaps who you could trust.
Yeah, they certainly wouldn't leave you in freezing conditions in the forest to die. I happen to know they do that a lot because a friend of a friend runs the Slovakian border. He's one of the border guards.
Yeah.
And one of the things he showed my friend around is like, oh, you just go into the woods during the winter months and you will just find dead Africans with like shorts and sandals on. Because the people smugglers will just drive them to the Slovakian border, throw them out, and then they'll die in half an hour. Not their problem. And that's been going on for like 20 years. That's not new.
He could have possibly used some of that $1,500 to buy a jumper as well.
Yeah, or just fly home, because why would you do this? Yeah. So anyway, shortly after arriving in Ukraine, he's actually arrested by the police, thankfully, instead of freezing to death in the forest. So
lucky him.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't say it that way.
He says this is terrible news for him. Who could have predicted this? That perhaps breaking into Ukraine wasn't the best idea. He says, I understood Russian at the time, but I couldn't speak it. I had a translator from Egypt. One policeman would ask me a question, and the other one would beat me. So, typical Ukrainian good cop, bad cop. So, been watching a lot of TV. I told them to bring me back to Somalia. Okay. They told me how many people die in Somalia every day. He said the officers said no one in Somalia would care about him. Now, I'm not sure how much we can take his word for this. I'm pretty sure the Ukrainians wouldn't have given a toss. Throw it back to Russia or throw him back to Somalia, but whatever.
Yeah.
Ryan said he was racially abused by the Ukrainian police and had a tooth knocked out. The officers wanted to know the name of the smuggler, but he didn't know the name. That time haunts him to this day. I don't have a huge amount of sympathy. It's like, yeah, you paid for people smugglers. I don't think the Ukrainian police are going to be too happy with you.
And he didn't even get a business card off the guy.
Damn. After the 4th-month prison stay in Ukraine, he was speaking Ukrainian and vowed never to go with the smugglers again. Which is why he's still into Ukraine to this day, which is... No, he didn't.
No.
Things improved when he started a relationship with a Ukrainian woman and lived with her family for a year and a half, although the relationship ultimately ended. As Russia's invasion of Ukraine approached, policemen asked Ryan and his friends to join the army, promising citizenship. Service guarantee citizenship. But they didn't want to fight, for some reason. This country that had given them sanctuary, the only one in the world, apparently, and we're now offering them citizenship in exchange for service.
And he's got a woman as well, so he's got roots. He's got everything that he wanted at this point.
Quote, I had two choices, he says. Go to the Ukrainian army or back to Somalia. A Ukrainian friend tried to hide him in the village on the border. He's leaving.
Okay.
Can't be bothered. Why actually defend the people who gave you safety? No, don't bother. No. They were moved to Hungary and then Slovakia before a stranger offered them a free lift to Vienna. Lucky you didn't end up in those forests. So there's that. But the police in Austria took all their savings, phones, belongings, and took them to jail because, well, broken illegally. You're a criminal, mate. God bless the Austrian police. That is how you deal with illegals. The British don't. Quote, I had a panic attack because of the Ukrainian jail, said Ryan. When I was there, I remembered everything that had happened to me. I was afraid the same would happen to me again in Austria. And jail for 4 months, no phone, no one to talk to. Oh, God, if only there was something you could have done, such as not any of this. So, he was taken from the refugee camp, in the mountains where he was able to earn money translating Arabic and Ukrainian. And he said he would have chosen to stay in the country were it not for the months or years it would have taken to receive refugee status documents in Austria.
Oh my goodness, having to wait a few months for...
Are you mad? Don't you know this is a worse fate than death? I might as well risk my life again. For what reason? Well, I'd have to wait a year here. That's gotta be what are you, mental? He's not even at any threat of being sent back to Somalia. But you could argue, oh, you know, that's basically a death sentence or something. It's not. He's not gay, so it's not like that. Instead, he literally just can't be bothered.
This is like one of those game shows where you get offered a prize and then you can gamble it for what's in the other box.
Yeah, so he's got the prize and goes,
yes,
swap.
so he's been offered. He's being offered asylum in Austria, which is a developed first world country.
Many people want to move there.
Yes.
And that's from the rich countries.
But still no.
And goes...
what's in the other box?
He refuses the call from the banker. And together with a Yemeni refugee and his Ukrainian wife, Ryan decides
the wife's still with him.
Apparently. They decide to travel to France.
Yeah.
Because that's better than Austria.
Yeah, the other box. Yeah, you didn't want to take that.
When he gets to France, he says he was welcomed as refugees from the Ukrainian war, which is...
Okay. Very astute people, the French.
Hello, average Somali man and Yemeni man from Somalia. Okay, whatever.
Yes.
But anyway, you arrive in France. Finally, you're safe. You've made it to a Western European country, unlike that dirty S-hole that is Austria.
Yes.
Or Slovakia, or Ukraine, or... Okay, right.
Yes.
Finally, we can settle down in Le France. Be romantic, have some kids. Nah. Ryan said he was left with no option but to take the dangerous journey crossing the channel. I'm not missing any data there. You can read the article. They go straight from, I'm being welcomed as a hero of the Ukrainian war into France to, well, I've got no option left but to cross the channel.
Does the BBC make any attempt to explain this?
No, that's nothing.
No,
this is what I mean. Yeah. Like, at every twist and turn, the guy is just like...
Yeah, just obviously got to get out of France.
No option left.
Yes.
Literally nothing he could do anymore. Once you've got to France, could your uncle not give you $1,000 to get the flight back to Riyadh still? Is that not on the table still? Could you not go back and be like, yeah, lads, I was an idiot. I'll just get a job here and pay the Saudi tax for being a migrant.
Yep, no dinghy it is.
No. He said he feared he would be sent back to Austria.
My God, how awful.
A literal fate worse than death. You might become a failed painter, who knows? He says if he'd stayed in the European Union land, that's the reason he might have been sent back to Austria. Oh no. So he had no option but to leave for Britain, as he had already learned some English from movies and video games.
I'm guessing that the BBC article doesn't explain why Austria was bad either.
No, literally nothing.
Okay.
I don't know why. Well, we know why. He was just bored. I mean, I'm sorry, this guy is literally just a traveller. He's just like, well...
If somebody just pointed out TikTok to him or something halfway through this journey, he could be fine right now. He could be living with his hot Ukrainian wife in Austria.
No,
working in a pret-a-manger or something.
Give it up. Anyway, comparing his experiences in Europe, Ryan says he was shocked by how well he was treated by the British police and immigration officers. Oh, why am I not surprised? I never felt like that before. They treated me nicely and polite. I felt like someone who lives here, he said. I felt thankful. The point we should understand is not everyone has the luck of crossing the channel. You are gambling with your life, which is why you did it, I don't know, about 12 times in your life when you were safe. Now I'm thankful that I didn't sink. He ends this off by saying he misses his family more than anyone can imagine and said he would not have left home if it had been safe.
Has he still got the Ukrainian wife with him?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
If only it had been safe in Saudi Arabia, he would have never have left her...
Or Austria. Or France.
Oh, Slovakia. I'd swear I'd be back. I'd never come back to Europe. Why would I take all those risks if I had a good country? Like Saudi Arabia, My life in Saudi Arabia, he ends us off with, was 100 times better than it was in the UK. I'm not joking. You can read that right there. My life was 100 times better than in the UK. They think we'd come for money, but no, we came because of the risk to our lives. That doesn't exist. Bro, unless you were gay, Jewish, or a Christian, there was no reason... Even if you're Jewish or Christian, I think you can get along fine in Saudi these days. There was no threat to your life.
As long as you're sort of fairly observant of the social norms, which he grew up in, so he knows... But the thing I can't get my head around, right, is somebody at the BBC tapped out this whole article And they just sat at the end and thought, yeah, that's it. Submit.
Yeah, he ends it off with, I don't care about money, I only care about living a safe life. Yeah, whatever, man. I don't believe any of this. Point being, the science is the same across the pond. We'll end this off with something funny. Just to cheer us up after, the madness that is how the system works. What are the British police up to? Because apparently we're the only police service, so we're not serious. The Austrians were like, give us all your phones. The Ukrainians were like, give us some names. And the Russians were like, I'll have your passport, thank you very much. The British, there's far more important things to do than deal with illegal immigration. Dealing with gollywogs, the dollies, criminal dollies. You want to give us a scroll? I imagine a lot of the foreigners won't know what we're talking about. There are these dollies that people don't like because they used to be used to represent black people, and of course have, therefore literal black skin and a big mouth.
But I mean, it's not a racist thing. It is just that was just a thing in the 50s. And in fact, even when I was a kid, there was a marmalade you could buy with one of those on the front. It was just...
But either way, it's not the 50s.
Yeah.
It's 23 years since the year 2000,
right.
For Christ's sake. These dollies
it's
are
actually current year.
They're kind of a meme. I mean, you ask any Gen Z person, it's just like, the funny old dolls.
Yeah.
Like, no one is buying these because, I want to keep a brother down. But no, this pub decided to put up some dollies, and then I don't know if we can play the clip. It's the funniest thing in the world. There's no audio, so we're not going to bother. And instead, you can see the British constabulary turning up to threaten arrest the pub owners for having the dollies. And then they get some bags out and start throwing the dollies in their bag so they can go home and play with them in the station, presumably. When they arrest some kid for having weed and then they go back and smoke it. That's what I imagine they did with these.
There's quite a lot of them, isn't there?
Yeah. They've, it's an important crime.
They're still coming.
I mean, there's a big clown car in the back of the pub with them in.
And so all of these guys, they're turning up to seize dollies.
Yes, these are our dollies. You cannot play with these dollies. These are for the station. And they're going to sit back in the station and play mummy and daddy with them, I presume.
This is sort of example, 4,761 of why British people no longer respect the police.
Yeah. At the same time, we've got to deal with Ryan over there, who is the hero of our times. Our state media will write a big old, star piece about how he's the best man in the world. At the same time, the police spend their time, instead of dealing with illegal immigrants, arresting dollies for being the wrong kind of dollies. Yeah, okay. Look how many there are as well. She's laughing. You can see the pub owner just pissing herself. Like, yeah, this is what you do with your life, is it? You want to go play mummy and daddy with these, are you? Which one's going to have the gruff voice, officer? Is that going to be you? Who's going to be mummy later?
There's not going to be soy face there, is it?
No. I think he might have been the one that made the call. We've got to do the raid, boys. Why? My fifis. Anyway, that's the news. That's the state of the West. And if you have any criminal dollies, be sure to keep them in your underground dolly vault with your other banned books and such things, because Mummy and Daddy is not a game to be played lightly. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Symposium series, this episode on sophists and sophistry. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.